Thank you for being here. We can probably skip this first one. You're all aware of the travel partnership we have now. I will cover this. No, what? Sorry. No, that's fine. You can move on. Okay, so the Gothia Cup. This trip is geared towards a team tournament it's basically a week-long event in the city of Gothenburg, Sweden, which is a fantastic city in the summer. The weather is not so great in the winter, but it's a wonderful place and a fantastic tournament. Now, you'll notice there are two flags there, Spain and Sweden, and the reason for that is, what I found, and this is such a popular tournament, there's essentially 1,600 teams, possibly there've been up to 80 different countries represented. They have 50,000 people at the opening ceremony in the stadium. So it's such a popular tournament that the flight prices for the airlines, they realize everybody wants to go there, the prices are really, really high. If you go directly from the United States into Sweden at that time, on the dates that the tournament occurs. So what we have planned is to avoid those high flight prices, is to actually take in another country within Europe as well. So we would fly into Spain first, and then do an internal European flight to Sweden, and back to Spain before you come home. So you get to experience two countries, and that actually ends up being, for group pricing, cheaper than just flying from the United States to Gothenburg, and sometimes by a couple of $100s or more. So that's why you see the Spanish flag right now. Gothenburg, or Sweden, you can see is at the very top. Gothenburg is where the arrow is. I believe it's on the, and did we say there was a Swedish family in here, or? Yes.
I'm from Gothenburg.
From Gothenburg. Okay, so the archipelago, right? Yes. So you can correct me if I get it wrong, which I probably will. But let's go on to the next slide. Okay, so a sample itinerary would be Thursday, July the 11th, you would leave from the USA for a flight to Spain. Whether it's Madrid or Barcelona, we don't know yet. It depends on the flight prices, obviously. But you would be met by me, your tour director, and visits. We could do a visit. We're there for basically a day and a bit, but we can take in a visit of the Bernabeu or the Camp Nou, as well as some cultural sites. On the Saturday, then, you would fly into Gothenburg from Spain, which is the day that most of the other teams will arrive. We'll become familiar with the city, short tour through the city, just so the players and the coaches can familiarize themselves with the city. And obviously, you'll know that the public transportation system is fantastic. You can get on trams all throughout the city. It's safe, it's great, and a wonderful place to be. Sunday, we can incorporate a training session at the Gothia Cup headquarters at Hayden. Might not be saying that right. Hayden. And then you can take a ferry ride to the islands off the Swedish archipelago. The first games proper are on the Monday of that week, first round games. And the way it works with the tournament there is, obviously they get applications from all over the world. So you may never know what size groups will be until it fits in with the field schedule. But if you're in a group of 5, for instance, you would play 4 first round games, and then the top 2 of the group would go on to an A bracket knockout competition, and the bottom 3 would continue in a B bracket knockout competition. So you get 4 games and then knockout competition games. If it's group of 4, you might get 3 games and then 1 more game after. But if you win that game after, you continue playing. We went a couple of years ago with a group and they made it to the quarterfinals of the B bracket, which ended up being 7 games. And they are shortened games because once you get to the playoffs, sometimes you have to play 2 shortened games within 1 day. 25-minute halves or whatever it may be. So that's just how it works. But on the Monday, we could do a guided tour, boat or bus tour around the city. The opening ceremony, as I spoke about, 45, sometimes up to 50,000 people. They have, it's like the Olympics. All the countries are represented by a flag bearer. They go around, they have fireworks display, they have different live music. It's a really fantastic event. Tuesday, the second round games, and then you have the option of going to Leesburg. I'm not saying I want to, but that's the largest theme park in Scandinavia, is my understanding. It's an optional extra. You get entrance into the park, but to go on the rides, you have to pay extra for that. There's often a leaders, coaches, parents party that evening. You know, you got people, different parts of the world, 2,000 parents, coaches. There used to be a disco at the tournament. I don't think they have that anymore. They've offered different options for the players. So that night there would be an option for the players while the parents are enjoying themselves, if they so choose. The Wednesday, another game, group game. You can discover Gothenburg on foot, including the Festkorka, the fish market, which is in an old church, is my understanding. Yes. The players, we can do a scavenger hunt. We set up a scavenger hunt where they get to go around the city and give them clues, and they have to find things around the city and come back. Again, this is the same event. You'll see 10-year-olds in groups going around the city getting familiar with the city. Obviously, we put restrictions and parameters down so they understand what they can and cannot do. If we didn't feel it was appropriate for them, we would find an alternative option. Okay, usually by Thursday you get to the knockout stages. If you win, you move on. If you lose, your tournament is over, but you obviously have to stay for the remainder of your trip as you've already paid for it. So then you might have more free time to walk through the cobble streets of Haga and visit the Skanska Kronen Fort, which overlooks Haga. The Gothia Cup final rounds, if you're not in it, and the reality is we went a couple of years ago, and I think there were 58 teams in our age bracket alone. So the reality is that you might not make it all the way to the final. But that's not, the soccer is part of it, but this trip is more about meeting other people from all over the world. There's Africa's represented, China, Japan, most of the European countries, a lot of teams from the United States, Canada, South America, they're all represented, and it's a unique experience that I don't think the kids will ever have an opportunity to be involved in again. But you can go watch the teams that make it to the final. Often they're at the Keaton Centre. There's a big stadium, Ullevi Stadium, and then there's a smaller stadium, and a lot of the finals are in the smaller stadium. You can complete your trip activities with your choice. We can set up different events for the parents or players, things to do. And then it will end with a farewell dinner at a local restaurant. Then we will transfer back to Spain on the Sunday. Another opportunity for a cultural visit or sightseeing trip. And then return to the United States on the 22nd. Okay, so accommodations and ground transportation is a little bit different to the other trips. In Spain, it would be hotel and or hostel accommodation. If the parents aren't traveling, the players will group together in a room, and sometimes you can get 4, 5, 6, so we try and make it cheaper that way for the players. The parents can certainly stay in hotels. The players may be in hotels also, but in Sweden, the team itself, the whole team, they stay together in a schoolroom in one of the schools in Gothenburg, and there will be other teams from other countries at those schools also, but you can have up to 3 chaperones. There has to be at least one chaperone who stays with the students, with the players in the schoolroom. And then there are shower and bathroom facilities, usually at the gymnasium and the locker rooms. And the cafeteria is also open you get breakfast, lunch and dinner at the school during the tournament. The parents, as I said, up to 3 chaperones can stay in the schoolroom. Obviously, if it's a boys' team, it would be male chaperones, but can be female chaperones staying with boys. The opposite wouldn't happen. If it was a female team, it would have to be female chaperones and or a female coach. But the parents have an option to stay at hotels. It is expensive. Scandinavia is quite expensive in general. The hotels are expensive, so the package price for the parents is a little bit higher. The trip includes airport transfers, all your internal travel, and everything else that goes with that. We can facilitate the group purchase. Right now we have a budget of 1,400, which it would be the budget of getting to Spain and Sweden and back, and then back to the United States. So the hope is that we can manage that a little bit better than flying directly from the United States to Gothenburg. Might mean that we have different departure airport options. It could mean leaving from DC, from Dulles. It could be Charlotte or Raleigh, but those things are kind of open right now. And again, we have assistance with other flight options. If you have air miles, we can accommodate that, but the group of players would have to travel together as a team. Okay, so this one includes Allianz, includes your trip insurance cancellation, professional liability is the insurance for the company, and then NCYSA and US Club Soccer or United States Soccer Federation. If you have to have international clearance to play, if you get that, you are covered insurance-wise for any injuries while you're playing. Okay, so this one, $1,500 per player in the school or hotel, and that includes the hotel in Spain and the school in Sweden. Parents is a lot more, as we spoke about, but that's staying in a double hotel room. If it's triple, the price comes down by about $50 per person if you have more people in the room. Again, deposit of $400, a November deposit payment, which we will talk about in a little bit. Checks to Activity Tours Europe, and would be collected by a team representative. Again, these packages are cheaper than other companies. So what we would do is to send out a follow-up email with additional information and, more importantly, the interest form, which you can then fill out if you are interested. You might need to talk to the rest of your team, but if there's people interested, they can send the interest form back to me, and we can, if there's from two different teams in the same age group or two teams at the same level from two different age groups, we can make teams and formulate teams that way. So until we get the interest form back with the information, your contact information, what trip you're interested in, then we can make decisions from that. And then following that would be a contract with terms and conditions and a deposit payment. Okay, for the Gothia Cup, are there any questions regarding that? I should say that we presented in Greensboro last night, so again, the home clubs are aware of this trip. We are recording it, and we will send out the brochures and the flyers regarding all the trips along with videos. So anybody that wasn't able to make it tonight, including people that couldn't make Greensboro last night, they will get the information, and we hope there would be enough to make, hopefully, a girls team and a boys team. But usually you kind of have to cobble together some different players from different teams. When we got to the quarterfinal a couple of years ago, we had players from 3 different age groups, and I think it was 5 different teams. And they were given opportunities to train before they left the United States, so they could become familiar with each other. And then we played it. It worked out. It was great. They did really well. So that can happen. Any other questions? Okay, I think we can cut the feed there. Thank you, Chris.